Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to lecture 45. In this lecture, we will discuss two programs, two centrally sponsored programs. One is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana PMAY and National Urban Livelihood Mission, in short it is NULM. In the last lecture, we discussed Swachh Bharat Mission and Hridaya program. In this week, we have been discussing various centrally sponsored programs, so that you understand that how these programs have their own provisions and allocations for particular activities in the urban sector, and how you can mobilize your resource and you can get those funding to improve the condition of your city. Now, under these two program, we start with the PMAY and NULM. Now, this two program is not the program has been started in last 2 or 3 years back, but the background activities or the activities related to this program is not new. For example, the PMAY is subjected to urban housing. Now, urban housing is not a new new activity by the government of India. After the independence, they have been trying to satisfy the need for the urban housing in many ways. Initially, they started serving the housing or providing the housing for the poor people and many other people by giving scheme based activity. In 2004, as I have mentioned earlier, that in JNURM they tried to combine all the earlier program, and they tried to give the provide the housing provision in a comprehensive manner and provide the infrastructure in a comprehensive manner. In 2009, they came up with a program called Rajiv Awas Yojana, where for the first time it was aimed to create a framework of planning to prevent the slums by taking some preventive strategy for the slum and to take a curative strategy for the slum. Then in 2014, this PMAY program came. Similarly, the NULM, National Urban Livelihood Mission, this program, even though it came in 2014-15, but I tell you another program, that is Swarna Jayanti Shahari Rozgar Yojana, which is another program which was there from the beginning in last few decades, and the objective of this program was to create livelihood job through involvement of the community, involvement of the poor, involvement of the woman member of the family. So, but these two program in a different shape, in a different comprehensive nature, definitely demands a place in current urban sector development, and we need to know each and every aspect of these two programs so that we can get maximum advantage of this program to improve our city. So, let us start with Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. So, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana it is also termed as Housing for All, HFA. The objective was to achieve housing for all by the year 2022. In 2022, the nation is going to complete 75 years of independence, and this PMAY scheme will bring a Pakka housing for all. That is the target which is mentioned by the ministry, and not only the house, it will have water connection, toilet facilities, 24/7 electric supply and complete access. Then it has 4 component, as I told that mission covers more than 4,000 statutory town. That means almost all the towns is covered by the PMAY scheme, and it has 4 component. One is in situ rehabilitation of the existing slums, credit leak subsidy, affordable housing in partnership and owner led housing. Now, we must discuss these 4 components in little more detail so that you can understand. Before that, let us see the objectives. This already I have told, that water connection, that is the basic services, electricity, water supply and complete access, 2 crore houses to be built. Then target group is LIG, EWS, that is all the urban poor by the year 2022, 2 million non-slum urban poor households are proposed to be covered under this mission. So, that is the broad objective which is taken by the government of India to be achieved by another 10 years or so. So, this is the mission highlights we have mentioned. So, here the SC/ST group is also included apart from the lower income group and economical weaker section. The beneficiary is characterized as the family comprising husband, wife and unmarried children, and the recipient ought not to have any pakka house any place in India. So, that is very important that the beneficiary should not have any already existing houses anywhere in India. That is the eligibility for getting the benefit out of this program. Now, let us see the components in little bit more details. It has 4 verticals. The first vertical says that in situ slum redevelopment. Second vertical says that affordable housing through credit linked subsidy. Fourth vertical is the affordable housing in partnership. Third vertical, fourth is that it is basically beneficiary led or owner led construction of their own house. Now, let us explain one by one. In redevelopment, as you know, the redevelopment is basically developing the whole site after demolition. So, here using land as a resource and with private participation, it is possible if you provide extra FAR, TDR or FSI. Now, the issues in redevelopment project, let me explain little bit that in every slums in our cities, the slums where they are situated, the land is not owned by the slums. Either the land is encroached land, it may be a company land or a industrial land or government land or private land. Now, the problem of redevelopment is that without the land ownership, government cannot do anything. So, land, if the government has the land, government can mobilize the program redevelopment as a resource, but for the finance, if government depend on the private sector, private developer, so government and private sector they can come together and can make a mixed housing project. Some of the project units could be given to the existing slum population and remaining portion can be sold to the market, so that the project become viable. That is the concept in the redevelopment project. If the land is not owned by the government, then the land can be mobilized through the sharing mode with the private or the industrial party through effective negotiation. That is the objective of the in situ slum redevelopment. But in redevelopment project, it needs to be like the local government needs to be very much efficient and effective in negotiation and dealing with the private sector. Then second vertical, which says that credit linked subsidy, basically it is a demand side intervention. It enhances the demand and capacity of the poor people by given a subsidy not on the price of the house as a product, but giving some subsidy or the assistance in the housing finance or loan in terms of the interest. For example, if you take a housing finance of 10 lakh rupees and every month you are supposed to repay another 10,000. So, every month when you pay EMI, some part of your EMI is your interest amount. So, under this scheme, the amount of the interest will be less, because some part of the interest will be repaid or will be assisted by the government of India. Usually in the current rate of interest, it is 8 to 9% of the interest rate what all the housing finance institutions they are charging, but under this scheme it is about 3 to 4% which ultimately a poor people is going to incur. Now, the eligibility is for EWS, it is up to 3 lakh income, and size of the house will be 30 square meter. For LIG it will be 3 to 6 lakh and the size will be 60 square meter. So, this is the eligibility to for the credit link subsidy. Now, under this scheme, under this vertical, under this component, many people already got the benefit from this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. The third vertical says about the affordable housing in partnership. In this program, government will provide some amount of assistance to the private developer if private developer builds mixed housing project and with 35% of the constructed houses reserved for the economically weaker section and lower income group. So, this is a fantastic example of inclusionary housing, where government is encouraging the private developer to build more and more houses for the social group, that is EWS and LIG. So, in this method also many developers in many states, they have already started developing houses for the poor with a reservation as per the government mandate. Fourth vertical says about the subsidy for beneficiary led individual house construction. This was there in JNNURM also. If a poor person has their own plot and maybe the house condition is not good, or maybe house is not there at all, so they will be given assistance under this scheme or under this sub scheme to construct their own house. So, in this scheme only the assistance for the construction is given. So, basic difference between 4 vertical is that the first one, in situ slum redevelopment, is all about dealing with the existing slums and the squatters where land is owned or land is assembled through negotiation. The second one is basically aimed to enhance the capacity of the poor people so that they can purchase house from any of the sources. Third is to create or enable or facilitate the social housing or inclusionary housing through the private sector, so that more and more number of houses are delivered for the poor people. And fourth is basically aimed to beneficiary led house construction, where people have their own land for the house construction. Now, under this we will have a very quick look of the methodology and the strategy for each 4 vertical. So, this is the component 1, that is redevelopment, and basic theme of this redevelopment is that land as resource. So, here you can see that list of the slums, then collect data for the slum, then analyze the slum data. After analyzing the slum data, you will get 2 types of categories. One is untenable slums and tenable slums. Basically, untenable slums are those where slums are living in a very disastrous condition or disastrous situation where you cannot redevelop that project. So, those kind of slums has to be rehabilitated. In tenable slums, maybe the land is not owned by the slums, but land is otherwise a good quality land which is not in a disastrous condition, like not in a river bed or railway lines or under the high tension line. So, those are tenable slum. Now, the next stage after the analysis, the tenable slum could be identified into 2 categories. One is unviable, one is viable. Within the tenable slums, one could be unviable, that is the project is not viable because of maybe the private sector is not interested to finance the project, maybe the land is not available through the from the actual landowner. In the viable slums, maybe the landowner is willing, landowner may be private or public both, or it can be industrial group. Private sector is interested to finance or to invest in the project, and the slum population, they are also agreeing for that project. In that case, it is viable slum, and for viable slum you have to make the project and you will get the funding under that. So, this is the overall framework for the land redevelopment under the land as a resource. So, in this exercise, this only the tenable and viable slums are eligible for getting the funding or getting the assistance under this scheme. Now, let us have a quick look of the credit link subsidy scheme. In this credit link subsidy schemes, the individual home loan application is put up in bank, then bank takes a decision on the loan, and then based on the information, the validation of beneficiary is done by the ministry, by the concerned department to the bank, and then sanction is taken place in the bank. So, it is done through the bank, where the role of the ministry or the role of the department is basically facilitating, and finally it comes to the in the loan account, it is deposited by the concerned department. So, in this mechanism you have seen that the loan is applied by the individual in the bank and the assistance is given by the ministry of the department separately to the bank through the process. In the third vertical, which is basically affordable housing in partnership, the project implemented by the state parastatal with no private sector or state parastatals with private sector, both can be there. So, here you can see that in this process the allotment of the houses can be by the states or private partner. If the states does this project, it can be low profit no loss, or if the private partner does this project, it is through the open transparent process. Now, the why they have also kept option for the parastatal and the private, because in some cases the project may not be funded by the private developer fully. In some cases we have seen that joint ventures where the contribution of the public sector is also there, they are also contributing in terms of land and other facilities, so that private sector also can contribute and can come up with a large number of the housing project. In the next, you can see the broad guidelines of the beneficiary led construction. In the beneficiary led construction, just have a look. I am not going to discuss everything in detail. So, here basically beneficiary belonging to slum not being taken up for so this beneficiary should not be included in any of the early verticals under this program, then only they will be eligible for this program for this assistance. So, in the implementation you have to make a plan document called housing for all plan of action, and under that you have to make a list of all slums, collect data of all slums. Similarly, as we discussed earlier, you have to identify the untenable slums and tenable slum. Within the tenable slum, you have to identify the unviable slum and viable slum, and out of the viable slum you have to make the preparation of the housing for all plan of action. So, this is a planning document. To be written. Now, for the viable slums, you can definitely link with the verticals of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, like say credit link subsidy, affordable housing in partnership, individual house construction etc. So, apart from that, you can take strategies for the untenable slums, for example, the rental housing and all those strategies can be taken. So, in this housing for all plan of action, it is not only the tenable slum, it is also an untenable, it is not only viable slum, it is also unviable slum. For all the slums you are making a strategy for your whole city. So, the approach here is basically the all slum, whole slum and whole city. So, that is what is aimed at the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Next is, it has 3 phases, phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. We are running on the phase 2. The next phase will be from 2019 to 2022. By that time it should complete all the houses which it has targeted. Then under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, another submission is there, which is called technology submission. The objective of the technology submission was that I discussed in the lecture when we discussed the centrally sponsored scheme, that the earlier program suffered because of the many reasons, including land, technology, manpower and institutional and legal mechanism. Out of that, technology was one of the indicator which, because of which the project suffered. Because of the technology, the conventional and the older technology, every project took lot of time for the actual construction. Now, the government of India, through their housing strategy and various strategy and policy, they tried to bring new technology to make the process faster, so that very fast development and delivery can be done. So, this is the objective where technology submission has considered. So, they have considered a modern adoption of modern, innovative and green technologies. They are going to make layout designs and building plans suitable for various geoclimatic zones, and it will also assist states and cities to deploying disaster resistant and environment friendly technologies. So far it has identified 16 such technologies which will be developed, nurtured and encouraged to be used by the state government for their housing projects in all the cities. So, technology submission definitely is a new addition in Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which was not there in earlier schemes. So, and under this technology submission it has 4 aspects. One is design and planning, innovative technology and material, green buildings using natural resources and earthquake and disaster resistant technologies. So, this is all about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and technology submission. I request all of you that you go through the mission guidelines and mission documents, so that you get and also have a look of the formats and the operational guidelines, so that those who are working in the municipality, they can implement the project with all everything. So, if you have a query, you can ask me the questions through the online forum or the online interactive session. Now, we come to the second program, which we told that we will discuss today. Though it is NULM, it is termed as Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Urban Livelihood Mission. The program initiated, as I told earlier, from the SJSRY, Swarna Jayanti Shahari Rozgar Yojana. The objective of this scheme was to fulfill or to generate large amount of jobs through training and the making of the self-help groups in the poor people, and mostly in the poor women groups. So, let us see that what is the provision in the NULM program. In NULM, this is the all introductory information. I am not going to discuss all this. Next is the vulnerability. Okay. In urban sector, in urban areas or cities, you have vulnerable groups based on the occupational vulnerability. Those does not have jobs and livelihood, or jobs are very much fragile. There are residential vulnerability, those are living in very vulnerable houses, poor houses, kacha houses. There are social vulnerability like the health, social security, education, etc. Now, the NULM program is designed to fulfill or to address the occupational vulnerability. The Rajiv Awas Yojana and later on the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which we just discussed, it is designed to fulfill the residential vulnerability, and other programs, other ministry like social justice and all those ministry programs are there to fulfill the social vulnerability like health, education and social security. So, in NULM program, let us see the provisions or the objectives of the program. Its main objective is to reduce poverty in the urban area and to access gainful self-employment and the employment opportunity and improve in their livelihood on a sustainable basis through building strong grassroots level institution of the poor. Right. So, if you see the keywords, reduce poverty, access gainful employment by creating the wage employment opportunity, improve their livelihoods in a sustainable basis so that they can continue on their job for long term, and by building strong grassroots level institution. In this objective, the municipalities or the urban local bodies may not be sufficient. We need grassroots level institution actually to give the training, capacity building of all these poor people. The second objective, it says that the mission would aim at providing shelters for the homeless, because it was found that if the poor people does not have a roof over their head, they cannot work properly. So, shelter and the livelihood, it is closely related, and in earlier cases for the earlier shelter program, we have seen that even if you give the fantastic shelter or fantastic house, they will not accept the house if the livelihood is not fulfilled or they cannot perform the livelihood function. That is why shelter and livelihood, it is to be addressed together in integrated fashion. Next is that in addition, the mission would also address the problem of the street vendors. They will provide spaces suitable spaces for the street vendors. You might have come across the National Street Vendors Policy and the Act which was enacted recently within last 2-3 years. Under this act, the street vendors will be given dedicated space for making temporary kiosks so that they can run their livelihood or job, but definitely they are not supposed to make the permanent shops in the road space. So those kind of spaces will be earmarked by the municipal authority as a vending zones in the road, in the junctions, in the terminal areas. Now these street vendors, where from the street vendors come, basically they are coming from the slums, poor areas. So street vendors are also to be integrated under this National Urban Livelihood Mission, and they will be integrated in the credit system, social security system and skills. They are also going to be get the training through the local institutions, and also for accessing the emerging market opportunity. If you give them training and exposure to the market opportunity, they can earn more. We have seen in recent years that because of these activities, even the street vendor, they are gaining more gainful opportunities and the employment and the income, and slowly they will be able to achieve a better shelter, better quality of life. Then some of the mission values are ownership and productive involvement of the urban poor, transparency, accountability, partnerships with industry and the stakeholders, and community self-reliance. So at the end of the mission, the objective is that the community and the individual, they will be self dependent. They no longer have to depend on the government schemes and the government grants and the benefits. So therefore through this value system or the mission objectives, they will be self reliant. That is the core values of this mission. Now have a look that what are the cities included in the NULM. Basically the population of 1 lakh or more is included in the NULM program. Apart from that, district headquarters will be included. For the northeastern states, some small cities also to be accommodated because they may not be having 1 lakh population district headquarter. The coverage will be expanded subsequently in the phase 2. So in various phases it is being expanded. So it has 6 sub component. Let us just mention this. One is social mobilization and institutional development. So here the key word is institution development. Second is the capacity building and the training. Here the key word is training. Third is the employment through skills training and placement. So here basically the key word is skill and placement. Then self employment program, it is the keyword is self employment. The fourth, the next is the support for urban street vendors. And then homeless. So if you see that all the keywords, you will understand a common thread between that. So first is the making the institution will give the training will provide the skills and the placement. A better placement will ensure a self employment will also be integrated with the street vendors and others, so that they can get more income from their own job, and also it is linked to homeless condition. They will provide the houses for the homeless. So you can see that it is not only linked with only the job. The job will be created through series of activities, through institution building, training, skill building, placement, and the upgradation and the self employment, and then the street vending and the homeless condition and their improvement. So this is the verticals of the self-help group. In some lectures we discussed in details that what are the hierarchies and the levels of the self-help group. I am not going into details. So the self-help group which were discussed earlier is more or less same. So through the self-help group all these 6 components will be achieved, so that government can ensure that self-help group will be delivering the desired objective of the ministry. Now, please have a look in the institutional arrangement how the NULM program will be executed. So, at various level, at the national level, state level and city level, various actions are required. At the national level, it is the Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation. At the state level, it is the nodal officer, mostly it is by the concerned ministry like Urban Development Ministry or Housing Ministry, as time to time delegated by the state government. And at the city level, it is basically the commissioner or headed by the commissioner or such person which is identified by the city. So, basically it has a hierarchical fashion how the decisions and the approvals or the project or the fund allocations are going from the central to the local level. So, let us have a quick look of the what was the achievement in SGSRI and what is the expectation in NULM. In self-help group formation in SGSRI we have already formed 66 lakh members, and here within 3 to 4 years we are targeting 20 lakhs member. Resource organizations between various it is more in NULM program. Bank linkage is there in NULM more. The revolving fund is available in both the schemes. Community organizers are there in NULM, separate designation, I mean separate cadres are also created in every municipality. Skill training was there in SGSRI and also will be there in NULM. Placement is there in both the schemes, definitely in NULM the placement will be more. The self employment program will be was there in SGSRI and NULM more. So, therefore, in a competitive scenario the NULM is the meaningful continuation of the SGSRI with more linkage and the convergence between the other schemes like shelter and the street vendors, etc. So, if the NULM is continued in a better manner, in a meaningful manner, in a desired manner, NULM very soon will be able to eliminate or mitigate or at least reduce the poverty level in the urban areas. That is the message what we get from this program. So, at the last we come to the end of this discussion of the centrally sponsored scheme. I am showing the functions of urban local bodies and the central funding. So far we have discussed few urban sector development schemes like AMRUT. So, for urban planning and regulation of land use, here you are doing AMRUT, Smart City Mission, PMAY, all these schemes have a component of urban planning and regulation of the land use both. But here the main challenge for the municipality is that for every schemes you are supposed to make different kind of plan document. So, it is possible if you make a one mother document, one city development plan document, and you can make version of that planning document based on the themes of the various programs like AMRUT, Smart City Mission, PMY and others. There could be Hriday and Swachh Bharat Mission and also NULM. The planning for economic and social development, basically National Urban Livelihood Mission is the program which is to be looked for. Roads and bridges, definitely AMRUT and PMY will give you, AMRUT and Smart City Mission will give you required funding. Water supply, AMRUT. Public health and sanitation, definitely AMRUT will provide the required fund. Fire services, it is a generic program, but definitely it is to be given by the state government. Urban forestry, you can try AMRUT. Safeguarding weaker section of the society, slum upgradation, poverty alleviation, all these are, this can be addressed through PMY and NULM. Provision of amenities, AMRUT will provide the required funding. Promotion of culture, yes, up to some extent AMRUT and program by the Ministry of Culture. Burial grounds, yes, AMRUT will again provide you the funding. Cattle fund, animal welfare, this will Amrut, and you can try as Swachh Bharat mission. Then birth and death registration is a municipality's job, nobody will give a separate funding. Public amenities is basically Amrut, and regulation of slaughterhouse and tanneries basically Swachh Bharat mission. The promotion of culture, here I forgot to mention that yes, Hriday also will enable you to take the funding for the promotion of the culture. So, this is a broad interlinkage between the job of the municipality and the funding source, or the source from the central government, where you will get the adequate fund to implement the program. Now, the major question of this centrally sponsored program is that in many of the cases that funding is there, the fund is allocated, but the programs are not implemented on time, and programs, even if it is implemented, it does not achieve the target, or it does not achieve the desired intention. The main problem of this scenario is that the municipalities, they do not have the adequate skills to monitor the project, to make the proper project plan, to implement the project, and to maintain the quality. It is the basically lack of knowledge and skill on development management and the project management. So, next week we will have a dedicated discussion on the program management, development management, and the project management, how a municipality can develop their manpower who will be equipped with the fundamentals of the project and the development management, so that all these centrally sponsored schemes and other schemes are properly managed and implemented in the municipalities. So, today I just summarize quickly what we discussed. We discussed two schemes today, one is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and National Urban Livelihood Mission. In Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, we have discussed that the government of India has been trying to achieve housing for all by the year 2022 by 4 verticals. One is for the slums through the redevelopment mode, one is by giving credit linked subsidy to the beneficiary, third is the affordable housing through the partnership with the private partner, fourth is that giving financial assistance to the individual landowner for constructing their own house. So, through these 4 vertical, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is giving funding and assistance. Not only that, we have mentioned that under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, there is a technology submission. Objective of the technology submission is to achieve, is to bring, nurture and create and encourage new technology, so that the local government or the state government can deliver or can develop and can dispose more housing within the given period of time using the green and disaster resistant technologies. In the NULM, we have discussed that it is the flagship program which has been continuing since last few decades as the SGSRY, and now it has been given a new shape in the name of NULM. It has various components like creating a local level institution, grassroots level institution, then the training and the capacity building, then making the placement and the skill development, giving them opportunity for their self employment, and linking the employment with the improvement of the street vendor, and linking them with the home for the homeless condition. And this program, this NULM program, we have seen that has improved a lot by connecting with various other sectors and other issues of the urban poverty, for example street vendors and the urban homeless condition, etc. And therefore, it is a revised version of the SGSRY, and if it is properly implemented, definitely it will mitigate or eliminate the poverty up to a large extent. And after that, we have mapped the 18th job of the municipality based on the 12th schedule, and we have seen that what are the jobs and which jobs can be linked with the what kind of centrally sponsored scheme. So, having said that, the next lecture I just mentioned, next lecture will start the discussion on the fundamentals of the project planning. So, the objective of this next lecture and next series of lecture of next week will be to ensure the efficient project and development planning in the municipality, so that all the programs including centrally sponsored schemes are completed on time and completed on quality. So, with this I extend my thanks to all of you for attending this lecture and the course.